And it's an important gathering of industry players within the mining sector. They call it a strategic conversation that will be taking place, strategic thinking. And I get a sense that perhaps this one is probably the most important that they've had in years, given the kind of environment that the globe finds itself, the world economy finds itself, and certainly our mining sector at the moment with the challenges on commodity prices, the pressures from the labor in terms of wages. And also we're coming to this conversation a year down the line after Marikana. Many things happened and changed since then, and we'll be discussing some of those issues. But also, I guess, really, where does South Africa place itself at this time in terms of the mining industry and the mining sector in general? You can be part of this conversation if you want to. Please send us your questions, SABC Morning Live. And we'll get those questions through to our guests. And let me introduce our panelists who are with us today. And this Mining Lekgotla, for those of you who don't know, it's a partnership between the Chamber of Mines with the National Union of Mine Workers, as well as the Department of Mineral Resources. We were hoping to have the President of the National Union of Mine Workers. Hopefully he'll still be able to make the conversation. But with me right now, we have the Director General of the Department of Mineral Resources, Dr. Thibedi Ramonja. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And next to you, we have Mike Teke, who's the Vice President at the Chamber of Mines. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on this conversation. All right, so the Mining Lekgotla takes place 27th, 29th of August. It's an annual conversation. Let me start with you, Mr. Ramonja, Dr. Ramonja. Is this perhaps one of the most important? Have I overstated it when I said that this is perhaps one of the most important Lekgotlas that you've had, given the scenario that's playing out at the moment?
I don't think you have overstated it. As you are aware, certainly, Peter, that we are in a situation whereby the mining industry is facing some of the critical challenges which we have never experienced in the past. And these challenges, you could actually group them into two. The economic challenges, you have highlighted some of them, that we are being faced by this slowdown, economic slowdown, the global economic slowdown, which has affected the commodity prices, especially in gold, in platinum. Some of the commodity prices have dropped by plus minus 30%. That is a challenge on its own, because it creates a situation whereby some mines are not profitable. But the other leg to this challenge relates to the stability of the mining industry. You have seen what has been happening in the last few months. It is extremely important that we address that matter. So this Mining Lekgotla provides us with an opportunity to converse around these issues and say, how do we address them? If you look at the program itself, it touches on some of the issues I've highlighted. But one of the interesting part of it is that it's going to touch on transformation. It looks at all aspects of transformation which are critical in addressing some of the issues which this country is facing. Issues of empowering women, issues of addressing ownership, issues of ensuring that people can participate meaningfully in the mining industry. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Teke, what are you hoping will come out of the few days with this Lekgotla?
Peter, the country needs the mining industry. This industry is very important to our country, and we're facing global challenges, as DG says. Firstly, we've seen that globally a lot of mining houses have changed their leadership. We've got new CEOs who are coming in. The agenda is changing, the game is changing. If you look at South Africa, we have seen the advent of Marikana, which has made us wake up to some of the challenges that we face that we have previously called soft issues. But critical to our industry is strategic conversations about A, the economic contribution made by the mining industry in South Africa and globally. Secondly, it's the impact of mining to the environment, the impact of mining with communities within which we operate, the impact of mining with regards to transformation in South Africa. And I believe with the mining Lekgotla, we have critical stakeholders attending there. The World Economic Forum is participating to talk to us about the global picture. We have several stakeholders in South Africa who are critical. The National Union of Mine Workers, we have invited several unions, UASA, Solidarity, AMCU will be participating, SAMDA. All those stakeholders are critical, including communities and the youth. Therefore, it is critical for this mining Lekgotla to come out of those strategic conversations with plans that will be actionable and be delivered to make this industry better.
All right, okay, let me ask you this. Everything that you've said, you could have said to me this time last year and the year before that. These issues are not new. What's different now? I mean, there seems to be, I guess, a little bit more urgency, but haven't we had these conversations before?
Peter, we've had these conversations before. The mining industry has not done badly at all. This industry has improved. If you look at the black economic empowerment side of this industry, has progressed, but we can do better. If you look at our operational side of this industry, we can still do better. Yes, we face challenges, headwinds as in commodity prices. The coal prices are down. Gold is not that great in terms of its prices. PGMs are facing challenges. All those commodities are facing challenges, but we have continued to deliver results. Thirdly, if you look at the safety, which is safety in the mining industry, has improved. In 2001, there were more fatalities than you see now. So there is improvement in the industry. What is critical with us as miners is to acknowledge that we cannot rest on our laurels because there are challenges that will come up consistently. We face the challenge of Marikana, but we know that we've had better industrial relations between us as employers and labor and the DMR as the regulator and other stakeholders. But these challenges will continue to challenge us. And some of them are game changers. And therefore we need to stay focused, and this mining Lekgotla therefore it doesn't make a small difference but a huge difference.
Okay. DG, you touched on transformation as an important leg of this conversation. And perhaps the question might be, you know, it's nearly 20 years since '94. Why has it taken so long, do you think, for the transformation ideals and goals to be reached in the mining sector?
You must, remember that South Africa has got its own challenges. We have got this legacy, over 100 years of mining, since the discovery of diamonds in this country. That was when this legacy started, where black people were marginalized, where many people were basically seen as people who will never participate in the mining industry. So we look at it from a historical point of view over 100 years, and look at what has happened since 1994. And when the new democratic government came into power, it had to put in place policies. The government had to start with a green paper. It had to develop a white paper as part of the policies. Those things did not happen overnight. And we had to come with the MPRDA, the Mineral Petroleum Resources Development Act, a very progressive act. Its aim was basically to say, let's transform this industry. We had an industry whereby mineral resources could be privately owned. And the MPRDA, when it came into being, created a situation whereby mineral resources vested in the people of South Africa. The South African government became the custodian of the mineral resources. From that point on us, we had to come with other tools and say, once we have moved this issue of mineral resources from private ownership into the hands of the people of South Africa, what must we do? That was a process we had to come with a charter. Had to come with a charter and implement the charter. That was also a process. And we are still in that process of implementing this charter. And I'm pleased because stakeholders came together and said, they committed themselves and said, we will use this charter to transform this industry. And next year it will be a milestone whereby we'll be assessing this process, this progress. There is progress in most cases, but there are challenges in certain areas. Next year when we sit down with stakeholders, we will look at this achievement and say, where are we? Because we have set clear milestones, we have set clear targets. For instance, in terms of ownership, we are looking at 26% ownership next year. Issues around the housing and living conditions. We are looking at the situation whereby these single-sex hostels are eradicated. We don't expect to see a mine next year having single-sex hostels. Those are some of the issues which we'll be assessing next year.
All right. Just before we go to our audience, one of the themes again is how South Africa positions itself to be globally competitive. And we are competing, but we have challenges. You are an employer. Talk about productivity, talk about cost to mine and some of the challenges as miners that you face here. Can we be competitive? What can we do? We've seen the rand taking a hammering at the moment. We're seeing possibly gold sector in particular under immense pressure this week if things don't get sorted out. Can we be competitive in an environment such as this?
Peter, we have the resources, number one, as a country. Number two, we have a mining industry that has great people. If you can check globally the leadership of the mining industry, most of those mining houses were led by South Africans, the talent that came out of this country. I can count Marius Kloppers, Mick Davis, Ivan Glazenberg. It's a number of them. We need to start talking about those things that we call elephants in the room. There are critical issues. Number one, you've mentioned productivity. We need to start talking about productivity as a country. Can we be productive? Can we deliver? Number two, the issue of costs. It is critical that we start talking about those. Number three, right now we are in the middle of wage negotiations. It's a sensitive time for the industry. But again, it's those strategic conversations that help us as industry, as labor, as the regulator, meaning the government, to ensure that the issues that I've mentioned are talked about and we put actions in place to deliver those. Yes, we can be competitive.
All right, okay. Well, let's start engaging with our viewers at home and also our delegates that are here. And let's go straight to table number 6. Tsepo Dibe, you have a question. Table number 6. All right, please stand up. We'll get a microphone to you. There we go, it's coming.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. My questions are fairly questions that have been addressed before. The critical one being that the youth of this country, obviously forming the majority of the population, where all these mining industries are placed or where the exploration happens, we happen to see that there is this lack of participation on the part of SMMEs and SMEs in those areas. Most of service offering or services that are offered in mining industries are normally from cities, from far away from all those communities. What can be done to improve participation of SMMEs in those mining areas? Thank you.
All right. So, well, both of you can address this. You as an employer and perhaps as a regulator, maybe to force the issue. Let's start with you, Mike.
Peter, I think if I understand the question very well, it's the participation of the youth in the industry. In other words, the availability of opportunities. I think we need to acknowledge that there are established mining houses in the country who have programs. Anglo-American has got Zimele, quite a number of companies have got programs in place. The industry is attempting to bring those who are viewed as marginalized, I'm talking about the youth, to participate in this industry. Number two, we have recognized as an industry that if we don't invite the youth to participate again in strategic conversations like the mining Lekgotla, of which there's a grouping that's been invited to participate, once that participation happens, they start to A, gain exposure to what is happening in the industry, B, to get an understanding of what needs to happen from their side for them to participate in the industry. We recognize that there's a long way to go in terms of one of those legs of the mining charter, which is preferential procurement. One, there are services that need to be rendered by several parties to the mining industry, wherever the mines are. And it is our wish that we would like to see a broad-based participation from the youth, from several parties who have not previously participated.
Beyond the youth, I think what he's saying is that there are small businesses in the communities around where mining operations are taking place, and he's suggesting that not enough is being done to make sure that these small businesses get some kind of, I don't know, preference or help to participate in your procurement process.
Peter, there's one word, it's called risk. You know, risk is a two-way street. Much as on our side as the mining industry, I want to acknowledge that we need to take more risks. What I mean by that, we have a tradition, obviously, of having worked with specific suppliers in a specific area. We need to take a risk and give opportunities, to take risks and give opportunities to those who are new in the industry and expose them to the industry. But again, on their side as well, as SMEs who are coming into the industry, they need to understand that you run a business, you don't walk a business. Therefore, there's a risk to be taken as well. So I believe we need to take that step on our side, and we are doing that, and there's a commitment in the mining industry. Members of the chamber are committed to the charter.
DG, are you happy with the efforts that these mining houses are doing in terms of creating an enabling environment for the communities in which they're operating in? Are you happy that this man here, this question is being dealt with? And what can you as a regulator do to make sure that communities are better served?
You know, mining doesn't occur in isolation. Mining is always in one or another associated with communities. There's a strong linkages between mining and communities. And I believe it is extremely important for the mining houses to ensure that they empower the communities around them. And this is one of the areas which government has actually focused on. And so as part of transforming the mining industry of this country, we need to ensure that people around the mining towns are empowered. And procurement is one of the elements of empowering ordinary people. That is why it is one of the elements of the mining charter. We will also be monitoring that. Mining companies will have to adhere to those commitments. And we have actually broken procurement in various elements, because we are saying that we cannot have a situation whereby people are just giving opportunities to supply water, to supply ball pens. We need to see people supplying capital equipment, for instance. And we have target for those things in the scorecard. And as I said earlier on, it will be very important for mining houses to ensure that they deliver when it comes to issues of the charter. It will benefit everyone, it will benefit stakeholders in the industry. Every single person will be happy once we see this delivery happening.
Okay, table 19, Craig Athervold. Stand up, there we go. Microphone is coming to you.
I'd like to find out exactly how government and the private sector will be working together in order to transform the mining sector. How do we go about changing that conversation?
Okay, maybe again something both of you can answer. Is there a conversation that's happening together? I know you had session with Deputy President Motlanthe a few weeks ago?
I think it's important to note that, Peter, within the industry, the mining industry, we have structures where we talk amongst, between us as industry, labor, and government. The processes that you're referring to, the first one was Minister Susan Shabangu inviting us to draft a framework to work on trying to bring stability to the mining industry. That was signed in February. Recently, Deputy President Motlanthe came up with the framework that was signed, and before that, we've always had a structured way which is called MIGDET, Mining Industry Growth and Development Employment Task Team. In that task team, we tackle issues that relate to our competitiveness as the industry. We tackle issues around the mining charter. We tackle general transformation matters and the way business is done day to day. The DMR, as part of the MIGDET process, sit in that meeting, labor sit in that meeting, we as business sit in that meeting. There is a commitment amongst us to say, when we collaborate to try and address these issues, can we deliver something? Yes, we do work together.
Okay. DG, you want to add to that?
I think Mike has already stated that. We work together. It is very important for this partnership to be strong. I mean, if one stakeholder doesn't participate in that environment, we'll never achieve what we want to achieve in terms of transformation. It's a process, this transformation matter. And when you look at it, you need to look at the entire value chain of the mining industry and say, how am I going to transform it throughout? You don't just transform where people are mining. You look at it from exploration, from mining, from beneficiation that is downstream side, and say, how do we transform this value chain? That is what is important. And it will need all stakeholders to work together, labor, business, and government.
Okay. On that note, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue with this conversation, hopefully hearing from you at home, as well as from our audience here as we unpack some of the issues that are making our mining sector quite challenging at the moment, but certainly I think there's some room for some optimism for going forward if we do the right things. So please be part of that conversation straight after this break.